No one noticed when RM arrived. The sidewalk outside Gaho's, a dimly lit bar tucked between two closed boutiques in Itaewon, was nearly empty by then. A few early leavers stood in clusters, finishing cigarettes, checking their phones, whispering. Inside, the music had quieted but hadn't stopped. A few fan accounts later tried to piece together timelines, comparing Instagram stories tagged before midnight. But the frame they landed on was always the same. Just after 1:20 a.m., when someone raised their phone instinctively, just to film the decor, and accidentally caught movement near the back. It was barely a second, blurred shapes, but distinguishable. Namjoon, and a girl. She was in front, hair tied back, coat unzipped. He followed. Not closely, but not behind enough to pretend they weren't together. They didn't talk. They didn't look at each other. But they walked in sync, slowly, not avoiding the light. That was the first thing that didn't make sense. If it were nothing, they could have waited. If it were something, they could have stayed longer. But they left just before closing. Calmly, quietly, with too many people still inside. Fans later wrote that it wasn't the girl that bothered them. It was the pace, the absence of urgency, the fact that they were the first to leave, not the last. By morning, the clip had already been trimmed, cropped, slowed down, and reposted across multiple fan accounts with varying captions, some cautious, others deliberately vague. Was that too early to leave like that? He knew people were there. The original video was taken down within the hour, but screen recording spread faster than deletion. What set everything off wasn't even the footage itself. It was a single comment left under a now-removed post. Why were they ahead of him? That phrasing, they, not she, shifted the angle of speculation. Other patrons remembered seeing another person at the bar earlier. A man in a bucket hat. Someone joked he looked familiar, but in the video, only RM and the girl are visible. No staff, no background noise, just the faint click of the door and her pushing it open first. Within fan threads, timelines began to fracture. Some insisted it wasn't even RM. It was too dark, too blurry. Others pointed out the jacket, the same one from a cafe appearance last week, same cuff folded at the wrist. But even those trying to explain the moment kept circling back to one question. Why leave then? The bar wasn't empty. The vibe wasn't private. He walked into visible space when he didn't have to. He chose that exit, that timing, that order. Not after the lights went on, not in a rush, not under cover. By midday, fans began mapping the layout of Gaho's. Old Google reviews, interior photos, even architectural sketches surfaced in threads, trying to answer a question no one wanted to state directly. How many people could have seen them leave? A wide-angle image from last year showed that the main door faces the street at a diagonal, meaning anyone sitting near the windows or standing by the bar would have had a clear view. Someone posted a pixelated screenshot from another night. Same angle, same lighting, overlaying it with the video frame. The shapes aligned, too clearly. That's when the silence became louder. No one from the staff deleted their posts. No one from the inner circle made a move. Instead, an anonymous account with a history of accurate schedule leaks commented under a popular thread. He didn't expect cameras, but he knew people were there. That single sentence became a screenshot, then a reaction, then a quote. The girl, still unidentified, became less of a focal point. Her outfit, her walk, even her presence, all faded into background noise. What stayed was the choreography of departure. Why did he go first toward the door and then fall behind? Why let her lead? Why now? A few fans tried to reframe it as nothing, posting fan cams and art edits to redirect the feed. But the comments beneath were unignorable. Still doesn't explain the timing. He could have waited 5 more minutes. Why be seen at all? The conversation, by evening, had splintered into factions. Not camps for or against. It was never that clean. But fractures between interpretation and discomfort. One thread tried to deconstruct the social rhythm of bar exits, asking, at what point does leaving early stop being casual and start being deliberate? Someone replied with timestamps from the video. Frame by frame, second by second. 1:23:04. The door opens. 1:23:06. She steps out. 1:23:08. RM follows. A pause, a turn of his head. One person in the corner, barely visible, lifts a phone, hesitating. That's the moment that broke the illusion. Not the walk, not the girl. The look back. Not a dramatic stare, just a fraction of awareness, captured in motion blur, like he saw something he wasn't supposed to see, or realized too late that he was being seen. Fans obsessed over that moment. Some said it was nothing, a glance to check traffic. Others said it was instinct, the kind of subtle recalibration you make when you sense that visibility has become exposure. But the real tension wasn't in what he did. It was in what he didn't do. He didn't pause. He didn't turn back. He didn't adjust course. The walk continued, same pace, same spacing, same distance between them. And yet, something had shifted. The few fans still inside, those who hadn't noticed him before, started whispering only after that glance. That's when someone raised a phone. That's when someone else lowered their voice. Not because of what they saw, but because of how unbothered he seemed by being seen. "He used to care more," someone wrote under a fan cam from last year. Not as an accusation, more like confusion. This didn't match the usual pattern. The care, the caution, the space. Now, it felt like the rules had changed without warning, and no one had told the fans. By the end of the day, it wasn't just the usual accounts commenting. The ones who always post first, always defend, always rationalize. It spread further, into quieter corners, where people don't usually engage. Sub-accounts with one post suddenly returned. Stan lists started splitting. People weren't quote tweeting the video anymore. They were quoting each other. Not to argue, but to echo something no one had the right language for. It's not the girl. It's not even what they did. It's where it happened, how it happened. There was nothing overt, no contact, no intimacy, no closeness even. But that was the problem. The image of him, walking behind, quiet, deliberate, without a hoodie, without sunglasses, without cover, in a place still occupied by others. That wasn't just unusual. It felt like a rule had been broken. Not a spoken rule, not a moral rule, but one of those invisible ones that everyone relied on without realizing. The unspoken choreography between public figures and the people who watch them. The understanding that some exits are supposed to be unseen. That some moments should never be shared with a half-full room and a door that doesn't close fast enough. The anxiety wasn't over what had happened. It was over the breach in rhythm. For years, fans had built a structure around him. A scaffolding of patterns, logic, protective reasoning. He's careful. He's private. He doesn't slip. That scaffolding had held through worse, through rumors, through speculation, through invasions far more invasive. But this wasn't invasive. No one chased him. No one stalked. He left into visibility, voluntarily, not to make a statement, but not to avoid one either. It didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like a decision. And the decision didn't align with anything fans had prepared to interpret. That's why the unease lingered. The post became more granular. One thread focused only on his shoes. He wore these before when he didn't want to be recognized, but this time, he didn't pair them with a mask. Another tried to recreate the layout of the bar entrance, using fan-drawn floor plans. They argued over inches, shadows, angles of reflection in the window. Not because the details mattered, but because the questions couldn't be answered directly. Did he know someone was watching? Did he care? By midnight, the mood had turned quiet. Not resolved, just quiet. No one could deny the video. No one could disprove the sequence. But the silence around it, from every official source, was too symmetrical to be accidental. There was no denial, no distraction, no redirection. Just a hole, perfectly shaped to let the speculation echo. Some fans tried to patch it with context. Maybe he was being polite, letting someone walk ahead. Maybe he didn't realize who else was still in the bar. Maybe. But even those defenses had a note of hesitation, like the people offering them didn't fully believe themselves. "It just doesn't look like him," one longtime fan account posted, then deleted. It wasn't about his face. It was about the moment, how it unfolded, and how quietly it refused to hide. That refusal, to adjust, to retreat, to explain, became the center of gravity. Not the girl, not the bar, not the timing. The fact that he walked into partial visibility and didn't flinch. He didn't act caught. He didn't act bold. He acted like someone for whom the line no longer existed. And fans, who had for years told themselves that certain spaces were sacred, that the divide between their world and his would always be respected, were left to reckon with the possibility that maybe it never was. Maybe it was only ever an illusion, sustained by care, upheld by choice. And if that care slipped, even once, even slightly, then maybe everything else could too. There was no ending, no clarification, no apology, just a timeline that refused to die, a moment that refused to fade, and a door that closed half a second too slowly, letting out just enough to change everything.